Hi everyone, it's Adrienne Leah. I am going to do a quick reading because I think I'm going to sleep early for me. It's almost midnight, but I do have to wash my hair. Sorry if that's gross, but I wash it. Um, well, I don't wash my hair every day, so it'll be a long night after this. And then I'll go to bed because tomorrow I have to go to the mechanics because I need to change my alternator, which is definitely not ideal because you just go to like the mechanics and you hope that it's something that is um not gonna burn a hole in your wallet, and it's not going to be the most expensive, but you could say goodbye to a couple hundred there. So it's not the worst thing, but I caught it early, so as soon as like it sounded different, then I got the cue to go to the mechanic to check it. And this is a mechanic that I wasn't sure was retired or not because this is the person that my family would go to when they lived in the area. And it's been a long time, so um, I am going there tomorrow. Hopefully, it won't be too long. I'm gonna bring a lot of knitting stuff. I'm hoping to just like sit it in the waiting room if I can. It's not really um a building. Like it's a gas station type of mechanic area. So there isn't like a that much of a waiting place, but there are things near it. But I I don't want to carry around a bunch of stuff. But that was that little update. And then it's been a little strange. I got some signs and I'm still thinking about them, so I think it could be other things too. I was driving to the grocery store late last night. Not, was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. And there was like this animal that popped up in the middle of the road. Not towards the middle, towards the end. So I didn't hit the animal. I couldn't really see what it was, but it was white. So I'm thinking it was kind of like maybe a cat. It was lower. So either that or maybe a possum. I wasn't driving that fast, but I was fast enough to where I couldn't completely um I couldn't completely distinguish what the animal was. And then when I got home, I went through the back because there are a lot of different entrances through the back because there's like a sunroom, even though technically this is like the basement, and then there's the back door. The sunroom has like multiple screen doors. Um, so when I was walking and I got to the backyard, I felt like immediately like something was watching me. And I turned, it was towards the woods, and I was thinking, could it be that people could see me on the other side? But the woods are so deep and they're There's the banks, and you can't really see past the woods that well, especially at night. Um, because in this area, there's not that many lights for when it's nighttime, and the energy just stuck for a while. So, um, it was interesting energy because I could, I wasn't sensing that it was something alive. I wasn't sensing something that was dead. And for a while, I was really trying to think about the energy. And then the only thing that was left was like, that's something that was never living. So it was interesting because the energy did change. It switched for a couple hours that night. And then the next day, which is today, um, before I was leaving to go to the mechanics, I saw like an animal. I feel like it was a cat, and it was kind of like, I think, lower too, and the tail was down and it was fluffier. It was like a tan color. Um, I didn't catch it in time. It went towards the woods too, and I was trying to look out for it. I just felt like it was kind of different because in this area, sorry, the light reflecting in the back. Because at least in the suburbs here, it's not a common thing to have like your animals, like cats, go out, like be indoor outdoor cats. It's not a common thing here. Or like having stray cats, you rarely see that. So I was thinking unusual. So, and then the last thing before I start my reading, sorry, I, which is different for me, I finished the first sock. I did a short leg, and I started the second one. Since I'm doing a short leg, there's going to be a lot left here. I'm not sure what I would use it for, but I wanted to clear out some things so I don't have to immediately pack it in my luggage or whatever. And I'm also moving my storage unit if, because my godmother told me that I could store my things in my aunt's house, and my aunt lives here and she's lived here for a couple of years. Because she's sick, she stays on the first floor. And so her house is vacant and I could put stuff there. I was gonna clear out the heavy furniture. So luckily, getting things done, and the car is like getting what it needs to, like it's maintenance. It's what you do with a car. So I'll start the reading. I'm gonna use a deck that I haven't used for readings, not normally at least. But this isn't the one. I'm using my deck, the Earthfairy Tarot. This one is one that I don't really use that often for readings, but I was really feeling the animal energy lately, and this is an animal deck that I've had for a long time. It's my brick of a deck, but it's the Animal Wise Tarot. This is an earlier edition, so this printing is different than the newer ones. This one is actually opaque because I saw the newer ones. I've gotten the newer one before. This was actually a store copy that I really loved from Massachusetts. I called them when I was living in Florida and I asked for this deck specifically. I didn't want a new one. I wanted the store copy. because I bought the new version and it was see-through for some reason, and the cards were really dark. I also have the pink copy too, which is their vintage one. So I really love this one. And strengths at the bottom, and it says Lion, strength of will and inner sun. Oh, and then today was I went towards like the gate because there's a gate that um separates the backyard from the woods, and that's where the animal went, towards the woods. So luckily it was daytime because I did brush my lips on a spider web. And luckily it was just one, it wasn't like a whole spider web. But I'll use this deck. I have the Glory to Ukraine Tarot. And I've been liking the Slavic Tarot. And I'll use the Slavic Legends too. Yeah. And I'll get an Oracle card. The first card that turned over is the Empress Makosh. Just interesting. Well, I went to another grocery store the other day, and I remember this person, there's like a bakery section, and I was with my family that day, like really like years ago, and I remember my brother was like teasing me. I don't know what it was about, but for some reason the bakery lady, or she like um, told my brother to stop, and he did, and it's been a super long time, but she still works there, and I don't know. Like sometimes I'm like, I wonder if she remembers me. But I guess that wasn't the only thing, because I remember distinctly with specific deities on my encounters. My first encounter with Morgan was actually the woods in Massachusetts, and a rabbit led me to the woods. Um, I say led because the rabbit kept stopping, watching if to make sure I would follow. And then it's like it jumped and leaped into nothing. That's what it looked like. I mean, it could have been jumping into like a hole, but at the time it didn't seem like anything. And I took a tool, I took like a branch that looked like a stang. Um, so it kind of looks like a boomerang, or like, no, not a boomerang, sorry. Like a slingshot thing, except without the rope. And I remember that area because there was this cloaked being that stood there where the rabbit just leaped into nothing. And that was towards the beginning. And then with the fox spirit, I remember the fox spirit specifically at this moment. It was towards the end. And this, now the fox spirit, did it come to me now towards the end? Um, I was actually going to leave the deck in America for a while because I was thinking, well, maybe I won't need to use it. And then now it appeared that maybe I would use it, so I now have it in my arsenal. Um, but when I was moving from Florida, it was a very distinct moment. I don't, maybe I could get to it in another video, but maybe this isn't the video to do that. Basically, I was leaving Florida, and it was the middle of hurricane season, but it wasn't like really that much of a choice for me to leave at the time. Um, I remember the night before I left, I was sleeping because the AC went out, and it's not ideal for Florida if you know, if like you're not in America, and um, Florida is mega hot, especially in hurricane season. Was it hurricane season? Um, I feel like it was because maybe towards the end of it, but if I'm getting the months right, but anyway, it was a hot month, regardless of when hurricane season is, and it was heavy storms. And I was sleeping like in the kitchen area, and it was just like a long story. Like maybe I should have gotten into the whole thing, but basically, it at that part isn't like that relevant to the story. Um, there was like a large being next to me, and it was white, and there were a bunch of heads. It looked like maybe fox heads, just kind of surrounding, and they were talking amongst themselves, and they were saying, "What should we do with her?" They were having a full discussion about me. I just remember like the white being distinctively, and just these heads talking, because I wasn't expecting to leave the next day. It was a surprise to me. So, It's interesting because there's Four of Swords and the Five of Swords. And again, with this deck, because I've talked about it in other videos, is different than other decks that I work with. It has this uncommon thing where occasionally some decks switch the elements for the swords and the wands. So in this deck, the swords is associated with fire, and then the wands is associated with air, and then you have the Five of Swords here too. This really feels like one-sided, like a one-sided argument. Like this person in the Four of Swords kind of looks like they're recuperating or they're resting, or like they might be in a dream state, or they might be in a state where they might not be able to comprehend or communicate. Um, at the moment, the Five of Swords just seems like maybe one person kind of decided, and then this other person's just like, it's almost like, it reminds me of like energy of like pulling the plug, but the other person is in a state where they're not able to make that decision. And really interesting because aside from the Empress card, the Empress card is interesting with the Four of Swords, I would say, because it's like the Empress can kind of relay with the, like, connect with the Four of Swords and say, but wait, it's not finished growing. Because this is the card that's associated with, like, fertile earth and things having steady progress and, like, trees that take years and years and years to grow. There's tree in this card too. It's like the roots where you haven't seen the progress, but it's making more progress than what you're seeing like with your own eyes. And then the judgment card has Sudanitsi. Sorry, I'm just looking because like maybe it isn't Ukrainian. The stop sign looks different on this one, but maybe I'll have to look at it more. And maybe I'm just confusing myself. So sorry. And it would make sense for that judgment call for the Five of Swords. And it does feel like maybe somebody being down, like in a fight, and then somebody else calling who won the fight or who is responsible, or almost scapegoat type like energy. And the Four of Swords, it just feels like the Four of Swords isn't talking. And it could be coming from the Three of Swords where they're still burdened with that. I kind of feel like there's guilt energy associated with the Four of Swords, and that's another or one of the reasons why. And then um, it just feels like there's some type of thing that paralyzes that Four of Swords. And it could also be the judgment and it could be the fear, but there could be other factors that make it so this other person claims the win even if, or calls the shots even if the other person isn't there to say. So it does feel like a little bit of a defenseless energy that comes from the Four and Five of Swords. So I think it would be just a little bit of a warning to maybe count to 10 or like to wait around or to really think about those motives and those reasons behind just calling the shots when another person can't call the shots. Because it doesn't feel fair in that way. There's like a strong maternal energy that comes from it because you have the Empress card and you have the High Priestess card. And the High Priestess with the Empress, it almost reminds me of like they say, like if you have like children and they're running around and they're playing around the house and all of a sudden it's quiet and then the mom's like, I wonder what trouble they're getting into. I'm not saying that they're necessarily getting in trouble, but it is kind of like that maternal instinct. So I feel like the Five of Swords isn't fully developed yet. Maybe there isn't like that much thought, but there's like that impulsive thought that comes out of it. It could be that frustration that lashes out because you get the fiery energy. Um, it's like it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. It's like shooting blanks. It's just no progress is being made from the Four to the Five of Swords. So there's something that needs to go backwards with that energy. And speaking of going backwards, I am going to say this because, again, with it being fire energy, this is a different deck, so the elements are switched to how they usually are in most decks that I've seen. So this is the Ace of Wands, and with that one, it came out with the Emperor. This one came out kind of like upside down when I picked it up. So the Emperor and then the Ace of Wands. With the Hierophant, there's a lot of Fool's Journey energy. And with the Minor Arcana there, it doesn't, with how much energy comes from the Major Arcana, it does feel like split second moments, kind of, where those Four and Five of Swords just like kind of battle it out. It could be that internal struggle, and the Empress and Emperor do make an appearance here. So I feel like that is really important. If this has to do with the relationship, I would say to really communicate at this time, if it's possible. And if one isn't able to communicate for whatever reason, there does seem like a paralyzing energy that surrounds one of the energies at least. I would think of like a new game plan to see if that can make changes or it could go in a different direction or it could really change the energy of what's going on because it seems that there's a lot of potential here with the Empress and Emperor card. There is one other reading recently where the Empress and Emperor card did come out from two different decks too. And I'm holding the Hierophant, and that's like, um, that could be a higher learning, that could be a spiritual lesson, that could also be a spiritual relationship. It could also be a relationship that is maybe, uh, I would say like more church-like if you're religious, because the Hierophant, at least in like the Tarot de Marseille system, you get like the Popus, and um, it does relate to like spiritual relationships. It could be people that are on the same plane as you or that are on the same path as you, and you cross paths for a reason, that type of energy. So I'm really getting the sense to like get that, get some type of progression in, or at least level yourself out and then control those thoughts and emotions and actions, especially the actions at this time, to see how you can progress with yourself and then also progress with the other person. So I feel like the Emperor is really related to the Hierophant energy, and that is the higher lesson that comes with it. Also, since we're talking about like maybe spirituality in a way, the Emperor does have like a cane here that kind of reminds me of like a shepherd, what a shepherd would carry. The High Priestess is also here too. Um, and that is its own intelligence. So I really feel like this could be that type of spiritual journey. Some people may not want to hear that too because of the 4 and 5 of Swords, where it's like a battle within yourself. Sometimes it like kind of feels like energy where you're holding off for a reason that you may not be able to see at the moment. And sometimes in life, you're given these lessons or you're given these curveballs or these directions in life where you do certain things and you aren't given all the answers. It kind of like flies by over you. But then it's like the guides or your higher self or spiritual beings not giving you those complete answers, because if they told you what you would have to do or go through, there would be a chance that some would not take that opportunity. They would probably go a different direction. So that could be where the strength card at the bottom of the Animal Wise Tarot comes out. Um, that could be a reason why it's there too. So there's a lot of willpower with the strength card because it doesn't feel like energy where you just like can walk in a park with it. And then you have like the 6 of Pentacles here. And that's what I was talking about with the tree and seeing little results. I'm sorry if like the light is really reflecting a lot. Because like you don't see the roots, you don't see things blossom until a different season. There's also like a protecting energy too. There's like some preventative treatment that could be associated with the 4 of Swords, and that could be Another reason why the communication isn't as open or like some type of enlightenment is there. Like if someone's having, and not like in a rude way, but like an intelligent conversation where you actually can reveal things that maybe misinterpreted or in the dark. I feel like there is some type of preventative energy that comes with it. I just say that because, like, on my, oops, on the tin here, like, it has my late cat, and she has this collar here. It's actually, I didn't have a lot of money at the time. It's just a flea collar. That's why it's like white, just for that reason. And it kind of made me think about that. I don't have all the cards turned around. See the Queen of Wands. We're gonna stick with fire energy there, and then the Eight of Coins, Eight of Pentacles. I feel like there's some energy that puts this Queen of Swords to work. And I'll be honest, I don't think she likes it very much. But I feel like it'll be more of a fulfilling process. The Strength card does weigh in on the Queen of Wands, and there's that persistence there of I'm gonna get what I want. So luckily the favor is in that way too for the other energy, because maybe some other energies wouldn't have wanted to deal with that. We have the Five of Swords again. This is a goose. Heed to the call to quest. Interesting that that message is at the bottom here. The Fool, also major arcana, with the Queen of Cups. So, Queen of Cups, intuition and power of belief can be really associated with the High Priestess, but I feel like these are definitely like the same energy because, as I said in other readings, the Empress embodies the four queens, and you have the Fool, Coyote, Wisdom, and Folly. The Coyote energy might be a good thing at this time because there could be like a lot of serious or maybe negative thoughts about certain situations that kind of set things back or not put anything into motion or put things at a halt with that Five of Swords for a brief moment. But it can be detrimental to have that Five of Swords there just because sometimes like if you let certain things like slip out, like if you're talking, um like there's no take backsies. Like sometimes like if you're talking to somebody and you take it like a hair too far, there's always a chance, because you can't really predict that stuff, that it could change the direction of something, and it might be in a direction that you're not hoping for. So really centering those thoughts before dishing it out to people is going to be important. I feel like I'm kind of looking at the Queen of Wands for that one because since it's associated with fire in that Slavic tarot deck, I'm thinking it could be impetuous type of behavior, um, saying things in the heat of the moment, thoughts in the heat of the moment. And since the cups here, the cup suit is here, the Queen of Cups, even if things aren't said, the other person may be able to figure that out, maybe gauge that if there isn't that type of communication. And if it is long distance, they could feel that and feel that energy as more of a threat than an ally. So with the coyote energy, the energy of like laughter in hard times is definitely a skill and something that might be frowned upon a little bit sometimes, but it's one of those trickster type of deities that are associated a lot with the coyote energy, and those types of personality traits tend to lean towards um, those deities in different cultures as one that can be troublesome, or like maybe a person laughs in the face of danger, and then some people might be seeing that as ignorance, but it could be just the nature of it all and the wildness that you get that comes from where animals come from, where this environment is, um, environment and nature. So also with the communication and the fool with the coyote, the type of laughter, it could be nice to introduce that into the communication. Um, but also being, what's it called? Perceptive on how the other person is or what they're going through. This might be something different where they're going through something that has nothing to do with you, even. Oh my God. Um, hopefully the lights don't go out. So if they do, I might have to cut it, but I don't think a storm is coming. But maybe because it's been cool lately. Really cool compared to other days. But making sure that you're aware about how the other person is feeling. So just to really gauge the situations. There's the future card. It's an interesting one because you have the Ace of Cups from my deck, which is represented by Absent or the Green Fairy. Tends to be more of like those drinks that have hallucinogenic um, effects on somebody. It is an older drink. And even herbs like mugwort that can induce those things. To be careful how you're inducing it and how you're taking it. And even with alcohol in general, even when it's made in different ways, it could have detrimental effects, like on your liver. Mugwort causing liver damage too. How are you getting to the right state of mind? And to be realistic too, the Four of Swords can relate to the Ace of Cups because the Ace of Cups might be with the Four of Swords because there's that type of protection energy of reliving a fantasy. Because the Ace of Cups can be those lovely dreams, or not, it doesn't have to be like in a sexual way, but those ideally ideologies or those certain things in life, especially associated with love, that it really comes down to wanting to protect things, but sometimes when you protect things, you might be closing them off for them not to grow. Sometimes it's good for confrontation, and that could be another thing that the Five of Swords reveals too. Getting from the 4 to the 5 is important, but it is a matter of how you do it. Especially with this queen, I feel like it is the balance of those energies of fire and water. The balance of maybe that light and dark energy too, if you want to think about it like that. You don't have to. And with the strength, even when you can hurt somebody, or what are you putting your power towards? Another energy, major arcana, is the Tower card. Interesting water and water there. Well, just because the tower has like a wave and then a house there, it tends to wipe away those foundations or those ideologies that were unfit or weren't strong enough to move forward. But you have the Ace of Cups. The Ace of Cups can be a strong contender to revitalize things because it doesn't feel like a complete start. So for the Tower, it doesn't feel like something has ended completely. It doesn't feel like a huge change because the Ace of Cups is minor arcana energy. The Tower is major arcana energy. But with the Tower, I'm sorry, it kind of reveals things that are important. Like, what are your values in this? What things need to be addressed or worked on? I would say with the Queen of Wands, again, being weary, there is that aspect of just wanting to fight with fire. Fire is not an element that does well when it's contained. I mean, you can use it in that way, but it has like a wilder energy to it, and it can have quick and damaging effects. But with the water energy that comes in the past and in the future, and even with the Queen of Cups, there's a chance that something kind of settles that energy and softens it. I wouldn't say the flame isn't there anymore. Because air and fire are mixed in. I would say still with the Slavic tarot. There's the King of Swords. I'm sorry, the Queen of Swords. You have another queen that comes up. Um, and it's the crone. Because it's the Maiden Mother and crone in paganism, pre-Christian. Then it moved with those traditions into Christianity, and you get the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Queen of Swords helps control the fire with the Queen of Wands. I feel like that really levels it out. I think that's a good thing. The only one that isn't here is the Queen of Pentacles. So that could be where the long distance is. Pentacles are often um, of the physical. So something more tangible. But then again, the Empress is there. The Empress is a strong earth energy. And even associated with Libra too. Associated with Taurus and Libra because you get the planet Venus with Libra. And even Taurus. High Priestess comes out in an obstacle. How to overcome the obstacle is the Page of Pentacles. There's a sense of playfulness that comes out of it because you have the cat and mouse, but it is a toy mouse. Then you have the Queen of Cups that comes out again with the Wheel of Fortune. There's a timelessness that comes out of this too. And energy of like seeing it through. There can be steady progress with it. There's like crocheting energy here. And with crocheting, I tend to associate it with like being faster than knitting for me. I don't crochet a lot, but it is um, faster in a lot of ways. And then it's also more forgiving when you make a mistake. Because with knitting, I feel like it is pretty tedious to fix a mistake if you do end up fixing the mistake. And with crocheting, it is using like a hook, and knitting, you use needles. With crocheting, you can just like rip back and then it's not as bad. There's a soft type of energy like coming from the harp in the back. This could also be associated with like the Ace of Cups too, because it has alcohol there, and the harp could be like associated with the Guinness. But with it being a string instrument and associated with air, it does feel like there is that subtlety with that. That even when things seem set back, it can be revived as, I'm not saying easily, but things can be mended even when they feel like they're not going anywhere. Or worst case scenario, they feel like they're like dying. It doesn't feel like energy where it's necessarily completely gone, as proven with the Tower and the Ace of Cups. Ace of Cups, it does feel like there's still a spark there. Queen of Wands, I don't think she would let the spark go away. There was still the Ace of Wands there from the Glory to You Green Tarot. And then present you have the Ace of Swords. I don't know if you'll see the Queen of Pentacles in this reading, but the Empress is definitely strong enough to represent the Queen of Pentacles. Ace of Swords associated with the Fate Fairy, Fate. And it could be some visions that really there's like a fixation with it, and it's not in a bad way. I wish I had another word that I said, but that's the first word that came to mind. Um, so hopefully there wasn't any negligence on my part if that sounded more offensive, but it wasn't the intention of that. But it is like a straightforward one where there's just like that energy or that thought that kind of keeps like poking away at you. And the Ace of Wands is here, the Ace of Cups is here. Again, the Ace of Pentacles is not here. There's something that hasn't completely materialized yet. I'll pull out a couple more cards and then I'll get the Oracle card out. So the Oracle card is Children. That could be a level of perception too. Sometimes, and they say through different um, interpretations of who the fallen angel was or who the main fallen angel was that people usually associate with that title and what he was, because it kind of looks like cherub type of energy that you would get from like media. And then when you look at like the cherubim in the Bible or you read the description, it's completely different than what you see in media. There can be that level of perception that might get in the way of how realistic certain things are. But it doesn't feel like it's an energy that loses hope. I'm not, this is another conversation, but um, it just feels like there's a different way to look at things, and there's going to be different ways of how to get around this whole situation that seems to be like not really moving and causing some type of annoying, frustrating energy. It's interesting with The world card in this one, I've said it in another video, this is Rod in here. And that's associated with the world too, and the type of creation in that way. There's that patience, and since the Hierophant came out in this reading, there does seem to be like a higher learning or a bigger lesson from this Three of Swords. I'm sorry, not Three of Swords, Three of Wands. Since I said Three of Swords, I feel like it can be linked to the Three of Swords with the Three of Wands, and also we're switching the energy too, and with the Ace of Wands here, representing fire and air now. Then you have the energy of the Hanged Man, and then you have the Rusalka. I really feel like with this card, it could have been certain things that were already said, but it hasn't ended. It hasn't ended. I'm not even gonna say yet because that's not it. It kind of just like the energy just felt like it stopped after I was going to say something. So I'll read the Oracle card, meaning yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm pretty indifferent with getting my car done because it needs to get done. But there was actually something that I was going to say about it, but it slipped my mind, so maybe it's not going to come up. Well, since I was talking about Hanged Man energy, and there's a stillness that comes from that. Um, and even with the lore, with the Rusalka, there can be like a different perception that comes from what you may have thought about somebody. Let me see. Children card meaning you are asked to pay extra attention to your children or your inner child right now. New children might be coming into your life very soon. This card signals that angels see your need to play. Have fun and honor your inner child. Perhaps you will play with your own children or grandchildren, or you might enjoy having fun with another adult or doing work that involves helping children. Take some time to ask your inner child, how do you feel and what do you like to do? Plan on an afternoon where you take your inner child on an outing, doing the things that allow your playful side to emerge. Swing and slide at the park, take an afternoon nap, draw on the sidewalk with chalk, build a sandcastle. That was the reading. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in another video. I was trying to think what I was going to talk about with my car. But maybe I just didn't need to say it.